Hi everyone, so welcome to Investing for Value. You must be wondering what kind of company is going to give you 1,000% return, and even if it doesn't give you 1,000% return, well, if you aim for the moon and you don't get there, well, at least you land on the stars. So even if you don't get 1,000% return, you might get something pretty substantial. And if that didn't give you a hint, maybe this information about flights and customers was giving you a hint. Well, what is the company? Well, try to not use too much time trying to build too much suspense. So let me just reveal it to you right now. If you haven't heard of this company, you'll probably start hearing it a lot. And this company is Virgin Galactic, who's about to do space flights into, well, space, right? So it's going to cost you about 250,000 US dollars. And it's going to give you a once in a lifetime experience. So when you consider what everyone's about these days, they're less about material goods, but more about memories. At least the new generation is anyway. Like if you take it back a few generations, it was about building resources. Then it was about you know just building things in general and making a name for yourself, building a legacy. But today's generation and today's people, they're all about memories. They're all about how do I create the ultimate experience? Because how do we get YOLO? Well, that's kind of that view. It's like you only live once, so it's going to cost you $250,000, but that's the kind of money that people can find. Like some people might actually take loans to do this because it's the ultimate thing and people want to do it. And they have specified, they have talked about that the minute all the $250,000 customers get exhausted, they can actually drop the price by 50,000 each time. It kind of just gives you an idea of how good their margins are. If you run out of customers, you can actually drop it by 50,000, and then each time they drop it by 50,000, a new load of customers come through. These guys wouldn't be short of customers as long as they're successful, of course. So what are we expecting in terms of this year? We're expecting them to be doing 31 million in revenue with 66 customers and 16 flights, and they're basically expecting 104 million in losses. But the year after that, they're expecting 210 million and break even. So for a business that's just basically starting, you're saying they're gonna get to break even by next year. But you have to remember they've already spent 15 years in development, and basically they're giving you the best prize of all. They're giving you the company at a stage where it can be break even, and I can tell you that's really special. You can look at all the IPOs that come on, and if they're innovative, they're fast growing, they tend to be losing a ton of money, like hundreds of millions or even billions. So to get a company that's just about to break even, if the numbers go as they plan, that's actually really good. And in a couple of years after that, they can make at least they're estimating 590 million in revenue, and 274 million of that's earnings. So you can see the minute they get past break even, the earnings are substantial. That's assuming they get 270 flights and 1,565 customers. By that time, they estimate they should have 5 rockets flying. So which isn't too difficult. If they can build one a year, they can get there. And we're talking about a $3 billion company right now. For a $3 billion company growing this quick, these revenues are growing quick. But of course, we have to possibly just go that things are probably going to decline. But this is just on space flights. They're also planning to do city-to-city flights or country-to-country flights. So one of their best examples was Los Angeles to Tokyo. So the normal time would take 11 hours, but they can cut it down to 2 hours, which is extraordinary, right? And also, if you think about the design of the rocket, their rocket actually goes like this and then flies, so it can actually go straight afterwards because of the design. Whereas most rockets just fly upwards and then down. So to get that same trajectory, it has to go actually a much bigger arc. But of course, different ones have different, like the advantages. There's pros and cons, of course. So like, well, I'm no rocket scientist, so try to explaining that one, and trying to explain whether it has the perks or not. But at least if things designed like a plane, people are used to it. It's normal. But except the flight time's not normal. The flight times are a heck of a lot better. And if you're someone who's quite low on time, like if you're working and your holiday time is really short, getting you back 9 hours is quite substantial, really. It means you can do overnight trips. You could just decide in the morning that you want to go from here to here, and then you can always just fly back at night time and go. Wouldn't it be extraordinary to do that, to just fly to another country and back in the same day? And with this, it's actually possible. So never mind this yet. This revenue here is just based on their flights into space. And that's a lot of money there, and that's going to be even more money there. So the growth isn't going to stop. The growth is just going to continue for years and years and years. So when you consider what they can be achieving and the price tag, 3 billion right now, 3 billion. Everyone's kind of a bit scared of this company. There's a lot of fear, of course, because it's risky. Things could go wrong. If say like spaceship blows up or they kill someone, things could really go wrong. But if they don't, and it's smooth sailing, and they get their launch, because might I remind you, Richard Branson is going to be the first passenger on the first flight. So if Richard Branson's willing to put his life on the line on the first flight, you can guarantee, people are going to trust it after that. Because if they were just trialing it with normal passengers and then they're like, oh, well, like, how good is it? How reliable is it? How trustworthy is it? But Richard Branson himself is putting his life on the line to prove that it works, it's reliable, and it's safe. Well, that's a big plus for the company. So the one thing that a lot of people are waiting for is the launch date. So the minute this company came on IPO, like last year, it came on at about $12, just sunk as low as like, was it like $8 or something around there? And now it's up to $14.84. So this one's gonna rise quick. But of course, the unknown flight date is making this valuation very hard to get. But the minute they confirm a flight, I am at this price tag is going through the roof. Of course, there's risk. So you have to make this decision as an informed person. Do your own research, and if you don't invest in something that you're not comfortable with. But this is one of these companies that have a potential of 1,000% return within the next 2 to 5 years, in my kind of view, because of course markets always price things for success and a lot of it. So if they get a set a date, I guarantee you this 3 billion is gonna go upwards of 5 billion or more, 5 to 10. And the minute they can get capacity, like the first milestone is getting someone into space, a paying customer. The next step is actually just building capacity. The minute you've got those two, the valuation just goes through the roof for these guys. But of course, trying to get there, that's a lot of work, that's a lot of risk, that's a lot of time. But getting 1,000% is not easy, because how do you get high returns? You have to take high risk. So sometimes it might not be a company for you guys. But for me, I like to just talk about companies that I would personally invest in, and I give my views on it. So that's kind of like my approach. Like, of course, I'm an investor that just loves growth. I love growth. I love development. I love innovation. But of course, some people can't afford to do that. Some people have, like it could be your life savings. So you put your life savings on it. Like at the end of the day, if you've got a lot of money and you're looking at retirement or you're looking at buying a house, then maybe you don't want to risk the money like that. For me, I'm quite flexible on this, so that's why I look at companies like this, and that's kind of how my channel is going to be based. I base it on kind of things that interest me, that have high returns, and that's how I kind of put it. Of course, assess your own situation before making decisions like this. Don't say, oh, some guy on a YouTube channel told me to invest in this because it gives you 1,000% return. Well, please do not necessarily consider it that way, but I definitely see the value in this. So let's start breaking down the numbers, because at the end of the day, it's all about the numbers. But of course, these are estimates. These may not be accurate, because remember, we've got delays, we've got errors, we've got all these problems that can come in between it. But if we were to say they get here, they actually get the spaceship going, they get about 16 flights, and then they get here and they are able to break even, and then they get here where they're getting critical mass and they're getting 270 flights off, then everything starts looking pretty good. And then once you get about here, say you're earning about 270 million, 274, well, let's do the math, right? And so for a company growing this quick, doing this kind of innovation, you're going to expect something like a 30 to 40 PE. Like, some of you will be thinking, this is a crazy PE, why is it so high? Like, if you look at something like Beyond Meat, a lot of people can't justify the valuation, but they're also going for the present value. So when you value a company, you're pricing the future. So of course, people can be very optimistic about the future. So that's why valuations can just skyrocket. But if we did a 30 PE for 274 million, we'd get an $8 billion company, right? So $8 billion company, but that would be the present time. So people would be valuing this at $8 billion a couple of years before it, because you can't buy these companies at fair value. Like, you can't buy Beyond Meat at fair value. Like, unless something terrible happened, then, actually, you could have brought Beyond Meat at fair value, because for me, I priced Beyond Meat at about $5 billion, and it was selling for about $5 billion in the $70 zone. So for this, if we say this was fair value at this part, it would probably be 8 billion already on here, if you know what I mean. Like, by here it's probably 8 billion. By here, once they get a successful flight, it's a $5 billion company if they get a successful flight. Then here, 8 billion. And then here, like, by the time you get these revenues, you're a proven company. The minute you're a proven company, there's so much like success that's going to be valued in for the future. Like, everyone knows you can do it. Everyone thinks it's only a matter of time before you get there. Then by here, you're looking at a 10 to 12 billion dollar company, or even 15. Just depends on the market, of course. Like, if you're in a bull market, then things are going to be flying. And then if we go, okay, like, here is about 200 million, here's about 600 million, so the year between would say 400 million. So if we're going, okay, these guys on average can add about 200 million in revenue per year. Like, never mind that they've got all this money to spend after that. So if we go to next year, it's 800, and next year after that is $1 billion. And so, like, $1 billion would be, they could earn about 500 million. So at about 500 million, it's about a $16 billion company based on PE of about 30. So if you go 16 billion, okay, we were still a little short, aren't we? So 16 billion, but that's on a PE of 30. But by that time, these guys are announcing this. So you could be, everyone's just gonna go, actually, this could be worth a lot more. And then after that, the years preceding that, the minute they can get, a few hundred million into their bank account, and then producing, the unlimited, quite a lot of flights into space and into other countries. These guys are gonna produce their revenue is gonna grow like clockwork, right? So you can imagine the minute you can, you could just like I could, that you'll be about 16 billion in a couple of years from there. But the thing is, markets just kind of value you ahead of time. So but that's just on like really really nice metrics, like really nice fair value metrics. But markets aren't like that. Markets are like 60 to 100 PE, which is crazy, right? Like, but you just have to look at Beyond Meat. The minute so, of course, so if at a 16 billion, we're talking about a 500% return at that stage. But that's just on a conservative basis. So how do I get this 1,000%? It's on the most bullish basis. It's on the bullish basis that everyone's valuing this company at 60p or even higher than that, which is how markets value things. If you're breaking frontiers, firstly going to space, then secondly offering flights around the world at cut times, like everyone's wanting to buy into the future. And if you look at Tesla, no other company has had their valuations even higher than the minute they start letting the world know they can produce cars and they can scale production at the same time, and actually with demand. So if you think about people wanting space flights, I think everyone wants a space flight. Like everyone, in the future, everyone, like, instead of bragging, oh, I went to Italy, I went to France, I went to some place really nice. You're gonna be going, I went to space, and everyone's gonna be wanting to talk about how good it is. Like the next most expensive thing isn't an electrical device. It isn't some item. It's an experience. And the problem is, we haven't had enough experiences available that is desirable to, as a single desirable thing. So you're going to have people that go, I'm going to save up money and I'll be really happy when I can fly into space. So that's where it comes from. And I noticed the video is getting pretty long, so try not to keep you guys for too much longer. But you can clearly see the numbers kind of can stack in your favor. So if you add a 3 billion valuation, you do your own homework, you decide if that's kind of too risky or whatnot. But for me, I've definitely brought some, and I'm pretty happy to go with this company and see how it goes. I haven't set a time frame of how long I want to invest in the stock for, but I'd say it comes down to when does the first flight take place. And who knows, if the first flight takes place and this company I feel like this company this year is going to be worth 10 billion or more, because proving that you can fly a passenger into space, that just proves so much, and markets can easily get carried away. Like, you could just look at Beyond Meat, how it just skyrocketed from a tiny valuation to being worth 10 billion when it was going on. So when you consider what Virgin Galactic is, of course there's a lot of speculation based on this. But if they get the right things right and they get the timing right, and there's enough people speculating, well, that return is very possible. So definitely look forward to updating you and seeing what's going to happen. And also, one piece of really special information was one of the really important guys from the spaceship company. So if you don't know the structure of this, is the spaceship company makes the spaceships, and then Virgin Galactic operates the service. So Virgin Galactic actually buys the spaceships off, like the spaceship company. So one really important thing happened was a guy that manages, the spaceship company. He's actually coming on to, in terms of the spaceships anyway, he's coming on to Virgin Galactic to be the chief operating officer. So you can imagine they're taking a very important guy who kind of is critical to making the spaceships to basically, what is he going to do? Well, he's going to manage the operations. So if that isn't the biggest signal that this company is ready to test their flights and they're ready to go and take passengers up into space, I don't know what is. So that's a big signal, because at the end of the day, when it comes to investing, we have to take the smallest of signals and then interpret it in the best way we can. And for me to take someone who's critical to building a spaceship to basically managing the operations, that's a huge sign to say, we're about to fly. And the minute they get that, this company's flying. Firstly, I think it's really hard for people to imagine that space flight on a commercial basis is just possible. So that's the thing. That's kind of my views. I hope you do a bit of research, and by all means, let me know what your views are. You could be like, this company is hugely overvalued, space isn't possible, or they're not going to earn much money. So there's a lot of reasons why it might not work, but there's also a lot of reasons why it will work. And if you're willing to take the risk, well, the reward could well be there. So it's about, can this work? And for me, I think it's going to work, and I'm actually quite interested to see the success and see how this goes. So for me, I love Richard Branson as a business person. He's someone who's been very successful. He's willing to try things out, and he's willing to put his money and his life on the line, because he's going on the first flight. So this is a guy who's, he's not afraid to, take on challenges and prove everyone wrong. And that's the thing. He's nearly as good as Elon Musk, and you would trust Elon Musk to build a lot of value for you. So whether this gets you 1,000% in 5 years or 10 years, that's a consideration. I think it will do really well within this year, in terms of how much of a percentage of a return you'll get. And I think it's worth it's worth thinking about, because if we were to consider companies that were coming onto the market and trying to do things that were breakthroughs, we can consider Netflix. They used to send DVDs in the mail, and no one was really considering all of that, streaming your videos online, and that company did really well. So but at the time, because a lot of people would have been going, oh, if only we knew about Netflix earlier, we would have invested into Netflix. Or Tesla. Tesla was always losing so much money until last year. Basically they were losing billions a year, and everyone was afraid to invest in them, but look how well they're doing right now. So nothing's always clear if you want 1,000% return. If you want 1,000% return, you need a bit of trust in the management, you need a bit of trust in the product. Of course, trust and everything can go a bit away, but also the product has to work out, and it also means a lot of things going their way. As Elon Musk used to talk about, SpaceX might have not been possible because they only had enough money for after 3 failed launches, they only had enough money for a 4th launch, and if it didn't work out, the company would fail. And well, the luck was on their side, and it worked out, and the company's going to new heights. So the same thing with Virgin Galactic. The minute things can work out, this becomes a very, very valuable company. So I definitely say check it out. Keep it on your watch list. I will look forward to updating you. Like, like if there's any more news coming on, I probably won't wait for the launch date. Though I do hope they have a launch date set, but I don't think they'll set a launch date too soon because that puts a lot of pressure on engineering teams to try to hit that mark, and they, they might be under pressure to deliver, and they might do things that you know not advised. Like they might speed things, they might cut corners. You don't want them to do that, so don't set a date until you're ready. That's what I definitely would go for. you know so I'm not too rushed, but I'm hoping for the middle of the year. And I'd say just based on speculation, hype, people are going to really run into the stock, and it's really going to run high. So like if you're looking for a decent return and if things go right, the market doesn't have a recession as we've been like talking for the last few years, this company could do really well, especially on a 3 billion valuation. Like 3 billion isn't actually that much for a company that's doing these things. And it's also got, Richard Branson backing it. So I'd say this is a company that could be something you want to back. But of course, we can only tell in time. Until then, like good luck investing. Let me know what you think about this company because I have perspectives, but the reason I talk about my perspective is so you can understand it and you can also give me your feedback. Of course, if there's something you don't understand, let me know as well. Or if you've got another company that you want to talk about or you want me to look at, then, by all means, as investors, it's a journey. It's about just working together and going, what can we find and, how can we achieve this and make, hopefully 1,000% one day. If it's not this company, we'll find another company that can do 1,000% return. So, of course, why not? 1,000% return. That's like the ultimate goal of every investor, basically. Like the one day you get 1,000% return, I think that's a bragging rights. No one ever can question your investing because you go like, I made 1,000% return, even though you might be like, oh, it's just because most of it was on speculation. Like making 100% return is doable with a very calculated risk, but making 1,000% return, that's hard. So we can see how this goes, and hopefully we can go through this in the future, especially when they get their launch date. And it does go, I don't think this year it's 1,000% return, but maybe in the next 5 years or the next 10 years. Of course it has to be successful. So let's see how it goes, and let me know if you do decide to invest. Like always, we'll be interested in who's wanting to join me aboard this spaceship. Until then, good luck investing, everyone.